And say they'll be back at the Valley next season. The optimism comes from major concessions in their revised rebuilding plans, which will be revealed on Thursday. The new stadium capacity will be slashed to 16,000 and the club will be offering off-street parking and restrictions on...
Supporters have already snapped up a record number of season tickets, with the club promising buy a seat and we'll buy new players. But the question is, will their ground be ready for the big kick-off? John Gubber now reports.
It's all part of Charlton folklore how their supporters never gave up the dream of forcing their club back to the Valley, a moving story of people power. Now the fans who made it all possible are being given the chance to take their campaign one step further by helping the club find the winning team that'll take them back to the First Division. For every 1,000 season tickets sold, manager Lenny Lawrence will be given money to buy a new player.
We've made a written offer for Alan Koenig at Middlesbrough, is well documented, and that's in the pipeline. We're not there yet, but we're some way towards that. And obviously any further money we get from season tickets, hopefully we can, you know, spend on players as well. But, you know, we've had 3,000 people buy season tickets, which is not bad, and a lot more than we've ever had before. If we can get to our original target of 5,000, or my original target of 5,000, then perhaps we'll be able to invest in another player of Koenigan's ability.
But while the club lay what they hope will be the foundations for a winning team, the return to the Valley faces a new problem, a race against time to be ready for the start of the season. They're due to kick off here against Newcastle in just 39 days.
Builders and architects have to take on the role of magicians sometimes. We're going to say abracadabra and hope it works.
Obviously it's very, very important that the work is completed on time, because it would be a great shame if we had to play our first game elsewhere, for the simple reason that Charlton supporters are anxious to see the club back at the Valley and not somewhere else.
But clearly time is running out. This, for example, is where a floodlight pylon will eventually be sited, while the West Stand is yet to be started. If the builders do make their deadline, the Valley will look very different here on August the 17th, when a capacity crowd of around 12,000 will celebrate Charlton's long-awaited homecoming.
Yes, the Football League is expected to tell Charlton tomorrow they must move back to the Valley by January the 1st. If they don't, they can expect a fine or loss of points. Charlton's original deadline of September the 14th was postponed because new safety requirements are proving longer and more costly for Charlton to carry out. West Ham say they can stay at Upton Park until the new year. Meanwhile, Arsenal suffering...
The date for their return to the Valley. Their first home match will be against Portsmouth on December the 5th. The club left the Valley in 1985, but always with the aim of returning. Since then, they've spent 5 years sharing with Crystal Palace, followed by 2 seasons with West Ham. After a long battle to gain planning permission for the redevelopment of the old ground, they ran out of money. Charlton supporters raised more than £1 million to contribute to the cost of converting the Valley to an all-seater stadium.
Football news now. Charlton players took to the pitch at the Valley this morning for the first time in 7 years. They were getting the feel of the rebuilt ground, which will host its first game in 9 days' time.
Financial problems forced the club to share first Crystal Palace's and then West Ham's grounds. But a determined campaign by directors and supporters has enabled the club to end its exile and return to its spiritual home. There's still plenty of building work to be done before the grounds pass fit for the historical match against Portsmouth on Saturday week. But as the players took to the pitch for the first time, club officials were not letting such worries dispel their feelings of joy.
It really has been a matter of survival, and it's been very difficult. And sometimes I think we've often wondered, are we actually going to survive? But being back here, I think we'll make sure that we've actually got a really good future.
And for former player Keith Peacock, now the reserve team coach, there'll also be special feelings on the big day.
Coming back here, seeing the crowd in here once again, because so many happy memories for me personally. Watching as a young supporter and then playing for nearly 20 years, so it's going to be a very, very special day.
That's all for now. Good afternoon.
1,000 people will attend what is a very special and long-awaited homecoming party in South London on Saturday when Charlton Athletic play their first proper home game for 7 years. Throughout this week, the finishing touches have been applied to the Valley, a ground which in its heyday held more than 70,000 people. Steve McCormack reports.
It's easy to see why Charlton's home, not much more than a goal kick away from the River Thames, is called the Valley. The natural contours are tailor-made for a football ground. The East Terrace, which won't be in use on Saturday, once held 40,000 people alone in the middle of the century. The club's biggest ever gate was 75,000 against Aston Villa in the FA Cup in 1938. But in 1985, a cash crisis forced Charlton to desert the Valley. and share a ground, first with Crystal Palace and more recently with West Ham. The Valley was left deserted and the weeds took over. A small and devoted band of diehards, though, refused to give up hope of a return. Their dreams are about to be fulfilled.
We've had so many problems. I mean, we've been starting and stopping. We've had all sorts of deadlines that have been missed. And even last season we said we were going to be back here and we didn't make it. And the building work stopped and started and they've been on a very fast-track schedule to get us in by now.
It hasn't been easy getting the Valley back into serviceable condition and conforming with the safety requirements of the 1990s. In the last few days, volunteers have been helping out with the final tasks, among them supporters of long standing.
Well, I can remember the 60,000, 70,000 crowds being passed over the heads to the front.
And what will be going through your mind when you see Cheltenham and Portsmouth?
Memories that will come back. It'll be a bit of a tearjerker, I think, for a lot of people.
The players have trained on the pitch, but none of them was playing for the club in Charlton's last match at the Valley in 1985. The groundsman, though, is a Charlton old boy and still treats the club as a family.
I think you go round other clubs and no one really dislikes Charlton, you know. I mean, even Millwall supporters say, oh yeah, they're not that bad. And I think it's always been a friendly club and I think probably always will be.
There'll be just over 8,000 people at the Valley for Saturday's visit of Portsmouth, assuming, of course, that today's final safety inspection goes okay. If all goes well in the future, and if fans stay loyal in numbers, the capacity may eventually rise to between 15 and 20,000.
Charlton going home to the Valley, one of the few in the country that's not flooded, but it's great to have it.
Valley tomorrow when Charlton Athletic go home after 7 years of ground sharing. The final touches are being applied to the refurbished stadium in preparation for a capacity crowd of 8,000. That's a far cry from the 30s when Lindsay was a season ticket holder. Then they regularly played host to crowds of 70,000. Portsmouth are the opposition tomorrow. The match is a sellout and police are warning fans not to turn up.
Charlton Athletic against Chelsea, April 1952. The game was a 1-1 draw, as I recall, and I came in the boys' enclosure over there for 9 old pennies, and it was an extra threepenny bit to join your dad in the stand. Not unnaturally, like most boys, I kept the programme. And the Charlton team rolls off the tongue for the old supporters. Sam Bartram, John Huey and Frank Locke, Bert Johnson, Derek Upton and Cyril Hammond, Gordon Hurst, John Evans, Charlie Vaughan, Benny Fenton the captain and Billy Kiernan. And centre-half Derek Upton is still heavily involved today with Charlton as a director.
Well, I saw my first game here, I think, September 36. Charlton had just got in the first division. Sammy Bartram was in goal. And I was standing just to the left of that goal. That stand wasn't there then.
Huge terrace there.
Yeah. Huge terraces just all the way around the ground. And I can always remember Sammy taking a goal kick and being very, very close to me. And so, of course, he became a hero to me. And then, fortunately, you know, I carried on and I played here with him.
Upton played with distinction for Charlton for 10 years, when the Valley held 70,000 and that huge East Terrace could itself house 40,000 in the First Division days of the early 50s.
Now it's number 7, Laureate for Charlton. And a header by Rod, it's a goal!
Jimmy Seaver's manager, great manager. They'd already, under him, gone from the third to the first in successive seasons pre-war. Finished third and second in the First Division. And then after the war, got to the final, got beaten by Derby County after extra time. Following season, beat Burnley and 1-0 after extra time. So Jimmy was one of the great managers.
As we all know now, Chris Duffy, who worked so hard he even played on the right wing as well as the left, proved to be the match-winning hero. With about 5 minutes to go, he scored with a first-timer. Having done so, he had quite a long run before he could find Jack Shreve to tell him all about it.
Don Welsh went up to receive the cup with the legendary Bartram right behind him. Charlton's proudest moment. Their saddest moment came in 1985, when the match against Stoke was their last at the Valley for 7 years. The fans said their own farewell, and the club moved lock, stock and barrel to Selhurst Park, where they stayed for 5 years, winning promotion and spending 4 seasons in the top flight. But a year after being relegated, the Lodgers moved again, this time through the Blackwall Tunnel to Upton Park. The core spirit of the club never wavered, but it wasn't like playing at their real home.
I think, obviously, it has been a disadvantage. It's not the same. I think teams tend to come to Selhurst and to Upton Park against us and look forward to it. We're hoping they're going to come here and not look forward to it. I think Wimbledon are finding the same problem at the moment. You know, people ain't going to Player Lane, they're going to Selhurst Park. And for all what Player Lane had, it had a bit of an intimidating little place, and they got great results there. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that this is going to turn into an intimidating little ground, and people won't like coming here.
Portsmouth are the first visitors before a capacity of 8,200. Work has gone on day and night to make sure the Valley is ready. Outside and inside, the transformation is total.
I think a lot of people wonder where our 4.6 million's gone. Unfortunately, because all the infrastructure around the ground, the turnstiles, ticket offices, all the drains, everything, floodlights, the whole lot, had to be renewed, apart from refurbishing the rest of the ground.
This is what the Valley looked like in the years of neglect. But one man was here all the time, with his mower, former Charlton winger Colin Powell, who is now the groundsman.
It's been a bit soul-destroying at times, but, you know, now on Saturday it's probably all well worth it.
Must have been pretty lonely down here in that period when there was nobody else here.
Yeah, it has been, Joe. I've got lots of memories here, so, I mean, every time I walk up and down with the mower, it's a different memory, but it has at times, you know, you've just been down here on my own.
So, after 7 years away, the long wait is over. For everybody connected with Charlton Athletic, it's going to be a day when emotions run high.
It's always special when you come home. Whether you've been abroad on holiday or you've been out of the country for a few years, I mean, we've been in exile and we're coming home, and the adrenaline's already starting to go, I think, especially with that ball club over my head there.
I just hope that those fans that come on Saturday will see something that they like and will keep coming. I mean, that's our gamble. It's a very, very big gamble.
I wrote a little article for the programme when we left, and I actually cried when I was writing the article. And I've written the article for the programme now we've come back, and I actually cried when I wrote the article. And I can stand here now and think about it, and I could quite easily be emotional. And on Saturday, I think, it's going to be hard to kick off.
I think it's always been hard to kick off for Charlton, hasn't it? But it's great to see them back at the Valley. I've played there. I'm sure you've played there many times.
I did. It's going to be quite difficult, I think, for the Charlton lads, don't you think? You know, they've been away so long, so much is expected of them.
I would think most of the Charlton players have never played at the Valley. I would think very few of them. So it'll be like playing at a home ground, but it'll be a bit strange for a while. But I'm sure that the adrenaline, as Keith Peacock said, will be pumping, and they'll really enjoy it.
And Alan Kirbish's line there, he said, we want to make it an intimidating little ground, which they couldn't do at Selhurst or at Upton Park.
Well, intimidating or not, it's nice to have your own ground, and the Valley's always been Charlton's, and it is more difficult playing there, because I'm sure they'll attract more support now they're back there.
They need a little upturning form, actually, Charlton. They started so well, but I think it's 4 defeats in a row now.
That's right, but this could be a turning point, and just the lift they need.
I think what we've actually done to them, and we took them away. Personally, I didn't, but the club took them away from their home, took them to Selhurst Park, took them to another part of London. Everybody hated that. We then said that we were going back to the Valley. We obviously, I mean, our battles with the council and all the other problems have been well documented, and on occasions, you know, we've said yes, we're going, and then it hasn't happened. Who else but Charlton supporters would form themselves into a party, a return to the Valley party, and fight a local election? I don't think there are many other clubs would get that sort of response. And when it actually comes to it in the end, we're then short of £1.5 million. At a time when everybody's worried about their mortgages, they put their hand in their pocket and produce over £1 million. In fact, the VIP scheme at the moment is just short of 1.1 million. I think there are very few other clubs in the country to get that sort of response.